You get to a certain point where you have so much work and it's dispersed all over the world. For me, being so eclectic, I started so late. I started in college dancing. I went to New York and I became a modern dancer, and then creating momix and making something. But then once you started creating work, I've done it in Israel for Batsheva, in Hubbard Street, Chicago, in Paris. I've done so many pieces in so many places, and then made companies myself. But I've never had the urge to keep a home. I've been fine flying to Tokyo, flying to Moscow, flying to wherever it is that I need to do my work. I feel now like I want to collect this stuff. I'll still go off. I'm going to China tomorrow and Tokyo the next day. But I want this work to be in a place. And that work could be everything from concert dance work, from the pieces I actually choreographed, commissioned on companies, like Hubbard or otherwise, to snippets from films, like Across the Universe. Like there'd be a dance, I Want You, and take that out and put it. So I want the company to be something like that.
It's always a surprise every day. Really challenged mentally and physically, which I think is important, especially for a dancer like me. The physical is not enough. I have to be mentally invested in the work too. And so there's never a detail that's unlooked. He sees everything, he thinks of everything, and therefore you're challenged really to be invested in the work, not just with your body, but with your mind too, which I think is really brings it a little more alive.
I'm pretty loyal to the people I work with, because I think when you find a creative connection with people, particularly with movement of the body, it's not like I sit there and I email you, hey, how are you? I'm good. Well, I'll buy 3 things from Amazon. I'm actually grabbing your wrist and saying, move over here. We're sort of exchanging body fluids. And so when you get that close, I think there's a connection you make with people that is a trust level. It's like a relationship. And when you start to trust collaborators, I'm not going to say dancers, because the dancers are not just, they're instruments for me to create, but they're also my fuel from which I run my motor. So when you find that, you rely upon them, and you find that there's a real important connection that actually sort of plants the greatest seed in the greatest soil with the perfect conditions, and it can grow to an amazing garden. So with that reference, I think that I'm loyal many times to the people I work with, because I find that they inspire me, I inspire them, I give them what they need, they give me what I need, and we connect together. But I always am looking at new people. For this show I auditioned, and we took 3 new people into the show. And it's great, and I'm loving them. You never know, you audition someone, and it's not like, and my auditions are not like I say, well, good, you got the jump, let's go. I look at the person and I watch how they interpret the movement that's taught to them. Okay, great. That's just arbitrary movement that I created on their before, that's laid onto their body. One day, but really what I want to see is who they are. Ultimately, in every audition, I ask people to improvise, because and I say to them, show me who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. You can stand on your head. You can dive through the window. Be careful, there's liability. But whatever music to whatever you want to do, because it's your chance to express to me why you do what you do. And that is actually the seed of why I do what I do. So the dancers that I end up choosing are people who are very responsible to the act of expressing their body. They're not doing it because their parents told them to. They're not doing it because they won an award. They're not doing it because this gig is better than the next gig. They're doing it because this is something that they do in their life. This is what their life story will be about, expressing their bodies. And I look for that in people.
I am not a shy person whatsoever, but I realized doing this type of work, it brought me to a very uncomfortable space. I kind of had to step out of my shell, which I didn't think it had at the time, but doing the show and having to do what I thought was weird at the beginning, these like awkward dances. I'm like, I don't know what the heck this is, like so confused. But after doing it, it kind of just brought out a different zone in me. So it's completely changed me from night to day. I'm so much more comfortable. If Daniel asked me to run around like a monkey or something, I would have no problem doing it. Whereas 2 years ago, I would turned down. So
recycling is, the greatest thing on earth. We need to do it in our environment. We need to do it with our plastic bottles. We also sometimes need to do it with our our choreography. I mean, we create phrases that we recycle constantly, we use. I mean, that's why there's a syllabus for ballet or modern or anything else. But there's also creative ideas that recycle and find different forms. I mean, if you look at some of the greatest films today, they've been shot many times before, but they're just cycled into a different idea or different idea. It's not like anything so new. So there's also that there's works that I'll create, 20 years ago, that one seed of that idea, oh my God, I want to develop that, and it will develop into an entire piece.
It's unlike anybody else's. I always feel like you just have to come in with the biggest open mind, knowing that you can't judge what he's doing, you can't judge yourself, you can't judge what anybody else in the room is doing. I always equate it to a circus, but it's like you just don't know what's going to happen, but it always pushes you to a place that I've never been pushed in a way in any other projects that I've done. So I always really enjoyed that process, working with him, and there's a space to grow. I always feel like there's a very nice comfy area of like, fall on your face, it's okay, and you'll get back up and you'll do it again, and figure it out the other way around.
I started dance late. I mean, relatively. I was a football player in high school. So dancing for me was something like, oh my God, I can actually express my body by just doing it. I mean, it was a wild idea that I could talk to people and inspire. So the idea of commercial or artistic, it never made sense to me. Well, why do you get paid for that and not for that? And why do you do that quickly and that take longer? I've always tried to cross that boundary and mix that boundary. I've always tried to take commercial dancers into concert work and concert dancers into commercial work. Obviously, if you become the prima ballerina of the Paris Opera, it's not going to be likely that you're going to be, rolling on the floor and, in a fountain. Maybe not. But you should. Yes. Because ultimately, I think the dance is bigger than all of us. It's not about the job. The seed of dance, of the inspiration of the movement, of expressing your body is much greater. We've just found in our quotidian life to figure out, oh, this one needs to be on the stage and this one needs to be shot in a Gap commercial.
Sometimes you just feel like you're a vessel for choreographers, and he lets you take ownership of the choreography, which I think is important because we're the ones on stage doing it. So I really respect that we get to be a part of that process.
He knows how to pull things out and turn you into something that you didn't think you had.
When I was younger, and I was dancing full out, I was very much on stage with clothes, without clothes, exhibiting myself. There was a very strong ego sense in why I performed. I had a great desire to do it, but it is a slightly exhibitionist form of expressing myself to many other people at one time. I mean, in a room with your partner, there's one-on-one. On a stage with an audience, there's 1 to 1,000. And you are saying that what you are doing is important to that 1,000. As you mature and you let dance go, as I let dance go and started towards designing, creativity, choreography, conceiving, I've let go of a little bit of that stage ego, which was one that needed to be out there on stage. And I've started to get more into the why. When you get into the why you do something, why you do it, applies to everything. It applies to the commercial projects, it applies to the artistic projects. When it's the why, you're not saying, well, this is 5 minutes, I got to make a dance fast. It's, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing it for the money. Oh, got it, clear, let's go. This is what needs to happen. And there's no secondary attitude as to whether it's artistic or not. It is what it needs to be. Everything is in the same way. A baby cries, it needs milk. You feed milk, it is soothed. That is what it's asking for. So each project asks for another part from you. I think when your ultimate, and I find it every time, why am I doing this? I ask myself, why am I putting, it's been a little bit of a headache to put the show together, but for one show at the Ford right now, and then why is because as I start to see it, I say, oh my God, this is all the work coming together, and I understand it, and I know the why. I understand what the why is. I think it's very unusual sometimes that you actually get to work with the choreographer these days. There's so many times that associates come in and do the rehearsal process, and you're like, I'm going to do this job, and I get to work with this person, and then that person comes to the tech rehearsal or whatever, And so I think it's a rare experience when, for 4 weeks, Daniel's here every day with us in rehearsal. That doesn't happen, especially these days. Not only is it, dancers are overbooked and booked crossing over, doing jobs
one week and going to another rehearsal the other week. You know, choreographers are doing the same thing. So it's not always, I guess, the thing to have a choreographer for the 4 weeks of what a project is. So it's always nice to have him and his commitment fully to the project that he's currently working on, which is really awesome.
As he sees choreography and everything, and that's what I think blends his work between the commercial and the concert, because he can see a normal person on the street and he can put music to it, and you're like, whoa, you couldn't choreograph it better than that.
The Ford is a wild one, because the Ford was something where I went and saw a show a year ago, and I think I saw Lula and Desmond and Complexions, Lula Washington, and I love the environment of the theater. And what I realized is it wasn't called the Ford, it was called the Pilgrim Theater. It was bought by the entire Cahuenga Pass was bought by a woman named Christine Stevenson in the 1919s. She built a theater so that she could put on the pilgrimage play that she wrote, because she was so inspired when she visited Jerusalem. That kind of dream is what anyone tries to dream when they try to create a new show. I mean, Guy La Liberté and Cirque du Soleil was a dream. It was street theater at first, and he's created Cirque du Soleil. That kind of dream is what I think is the creative dream. So I think I'm at the Ford for a reason.